Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hey Everybody podcast, attempt number 3 for this week, for today, for the last 10 minutes. Everything's fine. I just keep starting and stopping because I start and then I think like the camera's slightly askew or whatever. And I'm somehow convinced that that would matter to you or me or anybody on the planet. Let's have some coffee. Who cares? Things are crooked sometimes. Write that down. That is very hot coffee, the way God intended. I like to pronounce God with an A and a W, just so you know, God. I'm in a fun mood today. Yeah, coming at you somewhat live from my writing, recording, podcasting, reading habitat here, which I love so much. My brother came over and he saw the new place for the first time. And he said that this room feels like the kind of place you would want to be. And I said, yeah, man, that's the idea. I hope so. So, yeah, everything's good. I realized that we've been going heavy on like the thinky stuff, the philosophical, mindful stuff. And we've been going light on the ramblings and the stories, way light on the songs. But I think that's okay for now. Songs will come. I've been writing stuff in this very room, and I've been recording it in this very room. And I've been, pleased with the results sometimes. I, as you probably know from watching this, was not blessed with like the confidence that a lot of other musicians have. So I have days where like I hate my voice and I'm a terrible guitar player and everything sounds awful and I should just throw in the towel. But they pass, and I'm at least old enough and been around long enough to know that they pass. So you just got to keep working anyways. But I've been working on some stuff and been trying out some new songs live and recording them a bit and feeling good. I think something will come out someday. It's much too early to say when or how, but I'm working on stuff, and I always feel better when I'm working on stuff. But I was thinking about how we've been light on the stories, and I think part of that is because I tell a lot of stories on stage, and I don't want people to hear the same stuff over and over again. So if I do a story in a place, I try my best to not repeat it next time I'm in that place. So if I were to do one on the podcast, it might be burned forever. I think about that sometimes though, because I do know there are people. Todd Snyder, notably, that is as known for his stories as he is for his songs. And he will repeat stories a lot. And people will like shout out for like, tell us the, whatever story, the Devil's Backbone story. And he will. But I don't know. I've always sort of pushed myself to make the show different every time in the hopes that people that are seeing me more regularly will still enjoy it and still feel kind of surprised and that kind of thing. It's one of the things you can take from like the comedic world is that if you surprise people, they are more likely to enjoy themselves. That's why funny is funny, usually because it's surprising. But I have a story that I've just been thinking about the last couple days. And I'm not going to do it on stage. It's not particularly funny, I don't think. But it also kind of checks the other boxes that I guess this podcast has begun to somewhat regularly check. And basically the story is this. Like 7 years ago, maybe? Yeah, about 7 years ago. 8 years ago, even? Could have been 8. Long time ago. I got the opportunity to open for a gentleman named Chuck Reagan, who, when I was younger and still today, but when I was younger, he first came into my world as one of the singers and guitar players for a band from Florida called Hot Water Music. They're like a punk rock, hardcore, kind of melodic hybrid. And I love them. And I loved them then, and I love them now. Later on, he began to do acoustic stuff and solo stuff and that kind of thing. and I enjoyed that as well. I like it a lot. And I was very, very, very fortunate to get the opportunity to open for him once in Madison at the High Noon Saloon. It was wonderful. I had to work my ass off to get this show, doing a variety of like unconventional things. Like I called his manager on the phone because the deal with management and booking agents is they're meant to be reachable because that's their job, is to be reached in regards to their client. So I really easily found Chuck Reagan's, I think, booking agent, and I called them on the phone and asked them if I could open for Chuck Reagan, and they said, "Can you pull a crowd?" And uh, I didn't lie. I said yes, and that wasn't true, but I still don't think it was a lie because I believed that there would be people that like Chuck Reagan that would go see Chuck Reagan because their friend Chris was opening. And that ended up being true. So, after a lot of phone calls, which is not the way these things are done, I end up on this bill with Chuck Reagan and a band called Jamestown Revival, who I also came to be a fan of. And my wife and I, we drove down to Madison, and we bumped into him at a restaurant before we ate, and he was very kind. And then he came back to the venue and watched me sound check and said nice things to Tori about what he heard in my sound check, and that was very nice. I played my set. It went well. The place was full. I sold some merch afterwards, and at the end of his set, he like nodded me up on stage, and we did one of his songs together, and it was great. I think. 8 years later, me and my band got the opportunity to open for a gentleman named Orville Peck at the Sylvie in Madison, which is huge. It's 2,500 people. And we didn't get to meet him or anything because of COVID and that kind of thing. But same deal. It was a venue I really like. Band sounded great. Big Orville Peck fan, so I got to see him play. Sold a bunch of merch, and it was great. In my head, they're very different experiences, and I think I know why. I do know why. With the Chuck Reagan show, like I said, I was maybe 29 years old, and I was still very committed to a very specific view of a dream or of a goal. You know, you gotta go on tour, and you gotta get signed, and you gotta this thing, and you open for these people, and the whole thing. And I was very hopeful that this show with Chuck would sort of be the beginnings of that. That this show with Chuck was like the third or fourth rung up a ladder I had begun to climb, and I knew that this ladder had 100 rungs, and I wanted to go way up it. So I didn't know if you hear all the time, you open for so-and-so, and then maybe they take you on tour, or you end up on the same label, or their booking agent really likes you, or whatever, And I remember very clearly, I had what should have been one of the best nights of my life. My friends were there, my wife was there. I really think I sounded pretty good. They were old songs, I think that the thing about writing and creating things is that you always wish you could go back and do that show again with my songs now versus my songs then. But there's a very loud car outside. I remember thinking or hoping or expecting or wishing that it would just be the very beginning of something so much more. And, the next day I tweeted something about had a great time opening for Chuck, and he tweeted, "You're a hell of a songwriter," and that meant a lot to me, and that still does. But on the drive home from that show, I was already saying out loud to Tori. She was going, "Oh, what a great night," and I was going, "Yeah, but like, what if it doesn't lead to anything? And that was foolish. And it was a waste of an experience. Cut to 8 years later, and I'm hopefully smarter, definitely older, and we get this opportunity to open for Orville Peck. And Orville Peck's audience is very enthusiastic about Orville Peck. There are bands, I think Metallica is famously one of them, that like, you don't want to open for Metallica, because what happens is no matter how good you are, they oftentimes will start booing you because they just want to see Metallica so bad. You know what I mean? Get this crap off our stage, bring out Metallica. And I wondered if maybe that would be the case. I also wondered if, as the opener that the majority of people have never heard of, sometimes the place isn't even half full when you go on, or sometimes they just have their back to you, or, a lot of things. I'm sure a lot of you have been to shows where you just didn't care about the opener, so you showed up late or you didn't listen or whatever. So I prepare myself and I prepare the guys in my band for this may be the experience we have. We don't know. So we get there and we sound check and it's great. And we're just enjoying the process. We're just having the experience. We're at the Sylvie. We're on the big stage at the Sylvie. We're sound checking at the Sylvie. We're setting up merch at the Sylvie. They gave us a little backstage room at the Sylvie. It's great. And I'm committed to, I'm just going to have this experience and I'm going to enjoy every bit of it that can be enjoyed. We're about to go on stage and we're standing side stage, and I get my band in a huddle, as we often do, especially before bigger shows. And I remember very clearly I said, we're here because we're supposed to be here. We're not a local band. We're a fantastic band. And that's something I've said to them a lot. And we all high-fived and hugged, and we walk out on stage, and a full Sylvie, 2,500 people, just start cheering. They're just here to have a good time. And it's amazing. And our whole show is phenomenal. And crowd-wise, I think we sounded very good. I'm very proud of my guys. It was our biggest show to date, and it didn't feel, no one felt nervous or constrained or anything like that. And we had a blast. And when we played our last song, I said, this is going to be our last song. And people groaned. They're like, aw, because they wanted more, I guess. Ollie came out on stage and played harmonica in front of 2,500 people. It was great. It was one of the best nights of my life. And afterward, we sold a ton of merch and it was great. But one of the takeaways was people would come to the merch table and multiple people said we were one of the only bands that they've ever seen on stage that smiled that much. And I said, well, we're having a great time, man, And I think it made the show better. And as you probably know, I'm not on tour with Orville Peck right now. I'm not on, Sub Pop Records because I played with one of their artists. I'm not nothing. I'm just a guy who is still like hacking out a career for himself in his own world, who got to go on this little 8-hour vacation to the big leagues. And I sucked all the juices out of it. I had the best time. And having that experience has really helped me sort of recontextualize the Chuck Reagan experience, which was the Chuck Reagan experience, you could argue was better. I hung out with him. I met him. I sang a song with him on stage, one of my favorite songs of his. But the whole time I wasn't just experiencing that stuff. I was thinking, no, it's happening. I'm finally going to make it or whatever. And that approach with all that expectation turned a factually great experience into a not great memory in real time, because I kept trying to make it be something that it was either going to be or wasn't going to be, but was totally out of my control either way. So I think the lesson that I take from all that stuff is it's about expectation, I think. It's about how much we're willing to sacrifice of right now for expectations or demands of a future that we're not even promised will be around for. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I could have gotten in a car accident on the way home from the Chuck Reagan show, you know? And I also think it's notable that I was better on stage at the Orville Peck show. Obviously, I'm more experienced, and I think I'm a better musician and a better singer and a better guitar player, and I had a great band with me and that kind of thing. But I think people knew that this guy is singing this song to us right now because he loves it. And this moment is what means the most to him right now, sharing it with us. And I think that made it mean more to everybody else. So I'm working on dialing back the expectations and dialing up the awareness that, like, I am alive right now, having this experience right now, and I'm realizing that that makes all those experiences better, and it makes me better in them. This podcast is better when I'm not worried about what it should be like, when I'm not worried about, like, well, if I don't do this or if I do say that, people won't like the podcast or it won't get big or whatever. And I'm still trying to get there when I write songs. Just to write the song I want to write, or the song that comes, and not think at all about, like, how it compares to my other songs or where it would fit with my other songs or what people will think of it, or you know, what opportunity might come if this next song is this kind of song or this good or whatever. I'm trying to just be, you know, it sounds cliche. I'm trying to just be here now. You know, they say keep your head where your feet are. You know what I mean? My other favorite is you can't ride two horses with one ass. And I'm riding this horse right now. And maybe cool stuff will happen. Maybe someday this podcast will be huge. It won't be. Maybe someday I'll be on Sub Pop Records on tour with whoever. I probably won't be. But maybe, I don't know. But I do know I will be a happier person if I let that be that then. And I will be this here in this very moment, doing what I'm doing and trying to enjoy it and having good experiences because of it. Also, here's a funny story that I do tell on stage sometimes about the Orville Peck show. So we play a rapturous, riotous rock and roll show to 2,500 people. It's phenomenal. Afterwards, I'm standing next to the merch table and stuff's moving, you guys. I'm not afraid to tell you, like, we had a good night that night. And towards the end of the evening, a young man approaches the merch table and he's holding my set list in his hand. He must have reached up and grabbed it off stage. And I can see some of the guys in my band have signed it. And he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, I don't be weird or anything, but could I ask a favor?" And I go, "Of course, buddy. Whatever you need, man. I'm Christopher Gold. I'm a man of the people. What do you need?" Knowing full well he's being shy. He wants me to sign the set list. I'm kind of a big deal right here and right now. So he sticks out my set list and a Sharpie and he goes, "Could you get Orville Peck to sign this?" And I had to tell him the truth, which was, I've never met Orville Peck. And then he said, "Okay, no worries. Hey, good show tonight." And he left. And it was funny. It is funny. It gets funnier every time I tell it. I just think it's funny. And again, I feel like that's a choice to make. I feel like there's a lot of people that would go like, "Look, man, I don't work for Orville Peck. I don't work for you. I'm Christopher Gold. I'm an artist, and my art is super serious." But it's going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt him. And in the meantime, I could just sit here and go like, "That's pretty funny." And I've told that story a lot. And what's extra funny is that people are never sure that I really do think it's funny. Because sometimes I'll tell it and you can tell they're like, "Are we laughing at that? Is that cool? Are you cool?" I'm cool, don't worry. It's really funny. let's do some recommendations and let's get you out of here. And let's not throw you any weird curveballs or anything. Let's just do what makes sense to do. I decided this morning while I was having coffee with my wife that this would be like the substance of the podcast. I did not realize until 10 seconds before doing the podcast that the recommendations kind of take care of themselves. First up, wham! This record is called Pony, and it is by Orville Peck, and you should listen to it all the time. As you can see, he's a bit of a character. He's a fella, and I like characters. I think if you start getting into his music, you'll learn a lot of fun stuff, and he's great, and this record is great. He made it completely independently. He even played drums on most of it, and it's great. We're going to call it country music, but, with a big old asterisk that says there's some indie rock in there, a lot of like cool kind of post-punky British influences, a lot of like understated Roy Orbison influence, and like some Chris Isaak stuff. This is a very cool record, and I hope you'll listen to it. It also proves that music is for everybody. And like I said, the more you dig into him and his story, you will learn that he's doing good work out in the world for the people. So, Pony by Orville Peck. Up next, boom. This record is called Till Midnight. It is by Chuck Reagan. And it's a good one. It is, I believe, the last official studio album he did. Before taking a bit of a break. Hot Water Music started back up again. Very cool. But this record's great. And it's kind of dusty and folky. He has a full-time fiddle, full-time pedal steel. But he's the guy from Hot Water Music, and he approaches it with that kind of zest. And that's one of the things I like about him, and why I kind of relate to him in the way that I do. Because a lot of guys that play punk rock or hardcore and then get into the acoustic stuff, they're just playing punk rock or hardcore on an acoustic guitar. I have an equal love for both things, for Townes Van Zandt and for like James Taylor and that kind of thing, and old bluegrass and all that, as I do for punk rock. And Chuck comes from that school. So check out Till Midnight by Chuck Reagan. I think you'll really, really like it. You'll like it even more if you just listen to it with no expectations that someday you guys might become bestest friends who take over the world together, because that's not going to happen. He did call me a hell of a songwriter, though. I have that. And I never met Orville Peck. Damn COVID. That's it. I hope that was coherent. I never really know. There's probably even less planning that goes into these than you might think. But I'm having fun doing them, and I hope you guys are enjoying them, and I really appreciate the messages and the comments. I should tell you, I often don't see the comments until like the next week, because YouTube can be a little iffy about telling me when there's a new one. So I won't see them until I'm on YouTube a week later working on the next one. So if you say something important or heavy and I don't respond, that's why I haven't seen it yet. And if you would like to get a hold of me in a much more immediate fashion, you may email me. It's Christopher@ChristopherGold.com. And yeah, we'll talk next week. I hope you guys are doing good. And just keep repeating. Keep your head where your feet are. Be right here. And, you'll realize most of your problems, all your expectations, all your fears are about times and places other than here and now. So go listen to Orville Peck. Go listen to Chuck Reagan. Hell, while you're at it, listen to a song or two of mine. I hope you like it. I'm still a musician. Let's not forget. I'm not trying to be, a motivational speaker or anything like that. Just trying to live, man. All right. I love you guys. We'll talk soon. Aaron Rodgers just tweeted something, so I have to go read that. Be good. Bye.